Part 144. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1431. Chapter 1431. The birthmark on Panu's waist. The weather is getting colder and colder. I wonder how it is over there in Panu. I don't know the weather when I switch addresses on my mobile phone. Yes, I think your brain is short-circuited. It's really rare that your longing for an outsider has lasted for a month. If you and Panu weren't both girls, I would have doubted what was wrong with you. Hey, are you talking about me? Mommy is not the same. Last night she asked me to help her choose what kind of coat, scarf, and gloves to buy and send them to Panu. Mommy, you have nothing to do. What about you, brother? I went to the study room yesterday and found a few books on your desk. Don't tell me that you bought them when you had nothing to do. The reason why Yasuhiro said this was because she knew those books. Panu likes the content and style of this book. Yasuke may occasionally read, but he will never buy so many books of the same kind that he doesn't like at once to display them. Yasuke, who was mercilessly undermined by her sister. He pretended to be serious, but he was still exposed. Yasuhiro was right. That was the book he planned to give to Panu. Don't ask him why he did this. He thought it was because he had nothing to do and was full. But he was not to be outdone, so he was teased by his sister. He still held a card in his hand. Tisk, what does this mean? What did you do? Daddy, what's wrong with Daddy? Daddy asked someone to buy an international limited edition learning machine, which is light and easy to carry. 666, it's Dad's nature. It's the nature of rich people to like to buy the most expensive things. Anyway, you are not afraid of spending money. Then you know, the materials Daddy asked people to compile are all courses for primary and secondary school students, and they are definitely not for us. The two of them do not need a learning machine, nor do they need integrated teaching of primary and secondary school curriculum. Although you can search on Baidu for anything you want to learn now, the content is scattered. Yasuke specially asked people to summarize the learning content of primary and secondary schools into files in the form of courses and then input them into the system. Such a project requires meticulous attention to detail, which shows how careful it is. Yasuhiro was amazed when he heard this. No way. You must know that Panu only lived in Yegia for a few days, and Yasuke had almost no communication with her. Yasuke. Everyone knows what kind of character their dad is. Shouldn't a stranger like Panu, who appeared briefly, stay in his memory? Is it still worth his effort? I can't believe it either, but it's true. I heard him tell people when he was giving instructions to mail the things to Panu. Unbelievable. But the fact has happened. I think it's probably because of what Daddy said before. What words? Daddy once said that Panu is very similar to the original mommy. It was probably this that made Yasuke feel compassionate. The brother and sister had been discussing Panu's words for a long time when the car had already entered the school gate. In addition to learning knowledge in class when they arrive at school, they also have to deal with some matters of the student union. During the break, Yasuhiro and Yexingfen went to the student union office, where there were already people looking at computers. You're here just in time, come and help me choose some photos. What photo? The teacher asked us to make another record of the last school anniversary event. This one is the video and photos from that time. We have to select a few from them. Look at that elementary school student. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1432. Chapter 1432. Daddy's illegitimate daughter? The pictures from elementary school are here. I dug out the videos and pictures of dancing on the school anniversary, and Yasuhiro-shun pointed at one. Click on this to take a look. After zooming in, I think the effect looks good, so I've temporarily included the candidates. OK, click save. Yewaiwei asked again, is there another elementary school? Do you want both? Of course, isn't this the best example to praise our Egg Academy? Egg College has funded 2 impoverished primary schools. Of course, it will be greatly praised when word comes out about this. Moreover, Yeshiruo also selfishly wants to gain attention for Lee Painter's primary school. What if there are other rich people in society who pay attention to funding it? The person who was sitting in front of the computer searching quickly found the documents at that time, and Ye Wei found Lee Painter's figure in the paper picture. These photos are all selected through selection, and they are actually good. Look back and pick the best one. Control the mouse to slide the scroll wheel to look back at the photos. When he saw the third photo, Ye Qingfeng, who was lazily leaning against the wall, suddenly stopped and said, "Stop." He took a step forward, grabbed the mouse and enlarged the picture, and the mouse was fixed on a certain place. That is a dance posture in which Lee Painter bends down sideways. The costume for their school performance at that time was a short top and skirt separated, so this action exposed her waist. And there was a pattern on the waist that caught Ye Qingfeng's attention. Yeshiruo took a closer look and his pupils immediately dilated. That is, because we were shooting the large environment on the stage, the small parts were slightly blurred, but I thought we could see a pattern on the waist, which should be said to be a birthmark. Although some shapes are not completely round or square, and the ellipse is incomplete, it is more appropriate to say that it is a crescent shape. The most important thing is which pattern is exactly the same as someone's birthmark in the family. Yeshiruo quickly pulled Ye Qingfeng aside, swallowed nervously, and said, "Brother, do you remember the moon-shaped pattern on Daddy's waist?" No. Is it so destined? It is really strange for Lee Painter to be liked by the whole family. Now it is discovered that she has the same pattern on her waist as her father. This is too incredible. She can't be Daddy's illegitimate daughter. What nonsense! I know this is impossible, but how can there be such a coincidence in the world? Or does she have any other relationship with our family? This is not impossible. Ye Qingfeng returned to the computer and sent those photos to his mobile phone. He told other partners to deal with the matters at hand first, and he left with Yeshiruo. But the recess lasted only 20 minutes, and they heard the bell ringing before they could do anything. Ye Qingfeng asked Yeshiruo to stay calm, go back to class first. Yeshiruo frowned and refused to leave. To be honest, when she suddenly discovered something like this, how could she go to the classroom without any distractions? "Brother, I asked the teacher for leave directly. I want to find out about this matter immediately." Yeshiruo made the decision independently. Younger sister. "Brother, don't treat me like a child, don't forget that we are the same age." The two brothers and sisters looked at each other seriously. Ye Qingfeng finally nodded, "Okay, I respect your choice. Do you know what I was thinking just now? I even doubted that Panner might actually be our sister." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1433. Chapter 1433. People who met Mo Xiongnuan back then. The two children of the Ye family are smart. No one deliberately told them about the previous generation, but they also knew some things based on their own abilities. They knew that Mo Xiongnuan died after being stolen by Ye Hantian. They also knew the relationship between Yezikin and the Mo family. Even Dad's twists and turns of life have real existence, so it's not impossible to say that Panner is related to the Mo family. Look at the Lee family's attitude toward Panner. There's nothing that biological parents can do. When you have a doubt in your mind, you will find various reasons to expand that doubt. But Yeshiruo's words were only half right. The Lee family truly believed that Lee Panner was their biological child, but they just didn't like their daughter. "Brother, Where do you think we should start the investigation? Bring Panner over directly for a paternity test. No, even if Panner's birthmark is really the same as Daddy's, Daddy's birthmark comes from the inheritance of the Mo family. There are so many people in the Mo family, do they need to be identified one by one? The Mahist family has a large population. Some people have birthmarks, and some may not have inherited them. It is difficult to find everyone. Yeshiruo bit her lip, sighed and lowered her head. In fact, they are not as capable as those outside people boast, and they will also cry because of certain problems. Ye Qingfeng looked at Yeshiruo's little expression and couldn't help but think of the little actions Li Panner often made unintentionally. He squinted his eyes slightly, and seemed to be able to overlay the appearance of Li Panner and Yu Yeshiruo at certain times. Actually, there's something I haven't said. In fact, some of Panner's little moves are very similar to Mommy's, and I think she and you sometimes. At this point, Ye Qingfeng sighed heavily. Oh, I don't know either. No way to describe it, it's just an indescribable feeling. When I heard what you said, I also remembered that Mommy would be nervous and stutter when she lied in front of Daddy. Panner would also stutter when she was nervous. Mommy would bite her lip when she spoke unnaturally. Panner, yes. Also, Daddy said that Panner's eyes are very similar to Mommy. According to what you say, Panner has become Mommy's illegitimate daughter again. That's not what I meant, but, wait a minute, Yeshiruo suddenly had an idea. Since he has the same birthmark as Daddy and has similar habits to Mommy, then it's possible. The brothers and sister guessed the same person. But they didn't dare to say anything further. This is even more fantasy than Panner's relationship with other people in the Mo family. Everyone knows that triplets were born in their family 14 years ago, and there have been no other children since then. Panner is also 14 years old. Their guesses seemed to be getting closer and closer to the truth, and the brothers and sisters were beating drums in their hearts. Brother, is there any way to ask the original person? No, we can't see the cold night. When Yahantian killed Mo Xiongnuan, he was imprisoned again. Because of the pressure from the Mo family, he never came out again. Let me think about it. Many people knew about this matter back then, but people like Ye Weiwei, Yezikan, or Nangong Luo who had personally experienced this matter were very sensitive to it. If you mentioned it to them and later found out that it was just a bamboo basket fight, if all is lost, it will be even more uncomfortable. I remember hearing my godmother say that Nuan Nuan was placed in an incubator when she was born. No one has ever seen Nuan Nuan alive. But except for Yahantian, there must be someone who knows. I see. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1434. Chapter 1434. Find the doctor who took care of Nuan Nuan. I see. The brother and sister thought of one thing at the same time and said in unison, Doctor. Back then, Mo Xiongnuan had been put into an incubator since she was born, and her relatives could only watch from a distance outside the glass window. No one knew whether she had any birthmarks on her body, but the doctors who had contacted her back then must have seen her, but they didn't know if she could still survive. Remember? When Mo Xiongnuan's death was a big deal, the doctors and nurses who took care of her at that time had detailed records, so you can check it if you find the files from that year. Although Ye Qingfeng and Yeshiruo have very flexible minds, they are lacking in manpower. But the hospital is Guchensi's territory, so it's not difficult for the two of them to get the files. When the master who managed the archives handed the documents to them, he said, That's it, but I remember that many people were fired at once. Maybe the people you are looking for are no longer in the hospital. That incident was very involved. The Ye family and the Mo family were so angry that they fired many relevant staff members in anger, and basically no one related to that incident was left. The administrator of the archives room is still an old employee here and knows something about what happened back then. Thanks. After Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo thanked them, they checked the information in the file one by one and took notes. After searching, they targeted 3 people. After searching for information one by one, I found that one doctor went abroad, one nurse got married and went abroad, and the other stayed in the city and switched to other professions. Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo got the address and they were going to a small clothing store. Hello, welcome. After entering the store, she saw only one employee sitting there. Yezhiruo stepped forward and showed a friendly attitude to her. Hello, we want to ask you about someone. What? Is there a person named Wang Yuxia working in your store? When looking for someone by name, the employee was a little wary and asked, what are you asking about? Sister, of course we have private matters to find her, but don't worry, we are not looking for trouble, but I can't tell you private matters, please forgive me. Yezhiruo deliberately used a relaxed tone to lighten the atmosphere. The two of us, he's just a junior high school student, and he's not doing bad things. Yezhiruo and Ye Qingfeng are 2 young people who will not be regarded as bad people in terms of their dress or temperament. Finally, the employee informed Wang Yuxia of her whereabouts. Sister Wang, her mother in her hometown is sick. She just asked for leave the day before yesterday. It is said that she is in trouble this time and will not come back for the time being. Yezhiruo and Ye Qingfeng. It's really unlucky that you just found this person and you went back to your hometown. They took the time to check the location of Wang Yuxia's hometown. Fortunately, it was also in S city, but in a remote place. This time, Yezhiruo and Ye Qingfeng rushed over immediately after getting the address and successfully found Wang Yuxia's home. When they knocked on the door, an old man opened the door. Who are you? The old man's voice was vicissitudes of life, and his eyes were blurry when he looked at them. Yezhiruo said with a good attitude, Hello, Grandpa, we are looking for Wang Yuxia. Is she at home? When the old man heard this, he turned sideways and faced them with his ears. What? You speak louder, I can't hear you. Yezhiruo took a deep breath and raised her voice. I said, we are looking for Wang Yuxia. Is she at home? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1435. Chapter 1435 Confirming Identity. As soon as Yezhiruo finished speaking, someone suddenly came over and fiercely grabbed her arm and pulled her away. Who are you? Why are you yelling and making such a fuss at my door? A woman wearing a black down jacket appeared in front of them. The brother and sister looked at the person at the same time. The person's appearance naturally matched the photo of Wang Yuxia found earlier, and they immediately knew the woman's identity. Are you Ms. Wang Yuxia? I am. Great, I'm looking for you. Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo quickly explained their identities and informed their purpose. When Wang Yuxia heard this, a look of guilt appeared on her face. It's actually you. Do you remember? Wang Yuxia couldn't help but smile bitterly. It was such a big fuss back then, how could I not remember it? That incident cost her her job, but more importantly, it made her regret it for the rest of her life. The doctor was kind-hearted. She was on duty on the day of the accident, but due to her negligence, someone took the child away, resulting in the child's death. She saw the only pain she felt that night. It was the biggest irreparable mistake she had ever made in her life, and she didn't complain even if she was fired. I watched you 3 brothers and sisters being born back then, but it's a pity. It's a pity that one of them died. Everyone knows what is left unsaid. Wang Yuxia felt a little relieved when she saw the 2 children who had grown up safely. 14 years have passed in a flash. I didn't expect you 2 to have grown up so much. Aunt Wang, we are not here today to investigate what happened at the beginning. We just want to ask, do you remember if there are any special birthmarks on my sister? Birthmark? Yes, Do you remember whether there are any birthmarks on her body? I. Wang Yuxia frowned and thought seriously, and suddenly blurted out, I remembered, there should be a round birthmark on her waist. Round birthmark, are you sure? Well, the child was just born and was still small. I'm not sure if it's round, but I'm sure there is a birthmark on her waist. After so many years, is Aunt Wang still so sure? Well, it did happen many years ago, and that event was very meaningful to me, so I remember it very clearly and it's unmistakable. Hearing Wang Yuxia's affirmative words, the brother and sister looked at each other and had a sense of calculation in their hearts. After that, the Ye family brothers and sisters said goodbye to Wang Yuxia. The next thing to do is to come up with scientific evidence to prove a guess that may be impossible. Panner had multiple examinations at the hospital last time, and the hospital should still have Panner's blood samples. Healthy blood samples will be cleared within 3 days or a week, but because of Li Panner's special condition, some were deliberately kept. After the brother and sister handed over the prepared things to the doctor at the appraisal office, their hearts beat like drums. Brother, I'm so nervous now. Fine. Brother, your hands are shaking. Ye Qingfeng. You are my biological sister, can you stop tearing me down? Tweet, green plum in hand, bamboo horse without worries. Favorite, 1-1. Li Yu met Mu Qi when she was 3 years old. She knew how to strike first at a young age. Fortunately, Mr. Zuma was gentle and considerate, and Xiao Qingmei successfully embarked on the road of hooking up with him. When expressing her love, she never concealed her possessiveness, you are mine, no one is allowed to care about you. When proposing, his affection was unquestionable, I will give you the best love for the rest of my life. Nothing in the world is cheap. If you say we are together, I will contract for life. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1436. Chapter 1436. 5-year-old Loli Beijiu is injured. Dong. The phone received a document from Gu Jinsi. Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo browsed quickly. Uncle Gu has sent the birth records of the hospital where the Li family lived. According to Uncle Gu's recollection, Ye Hantian went to that hospital when he left with Nuan, and was transferred. It's not impossible. Thinking about it this way, everything is connected. Unfortunately, paternity testing also takes time. Even if they are anxious, they can only wait. Brother, it suddenly feels like we have done something big. If the truth is as twists and turns as we imagined, it would be a good thing for us now. Mo Xiongnuan has been dead for many years. Even though everyone thinks she only existed for a dozen days, she is still unforgettable. Yes, only mood has remained the same for many years, as evidenced by the room in Yes house that is exclusively for Mo Xiongnuan. If their guess is correct, then the only knot that has lasted for many years will be lifted that night. And they like Li Panner very much. The brother and sister were walking along the corridor of the hospital, and Yezhiruo's cell phone vibrated continuously. Taking out his cell phone and looking at the caller ID, Yezhiruo stretched out his arms and made a pause gesture. Wait a minute, Ran's godmother is calling. After answering Ran's call, Yezhiruo's expression changed from confusion to surprise. Huh. Ran said something, and Yezhiruo hung up the phone, grabbed Ye Qingfeng's arm, and said anxiously, Yuer was injured in the kindergarten. Godmother Ran and godfather B can't get out of the city at the moment. Grandma, you can't coax anyone. Let's go. The brother and sister ran out of the hospital in a hurry. After getting in the car, Ye Qingfeng took out his mobile phone and found that there were several missed calls on it, all from Ran and Bei Ye. Maybe he accidentally pressed mute when he was checking the file, so the calls he made were not received in time, so Yuan Ran called Yezhiruo instead. Fortunately, Yezhiruo and Ye Qingfeng were together. The little princess of the Bei family was a baby that everyone had been waiting for many years. She was loved by all and loved by all the relatives around her. It happened that the little princess was born very picky. Apart from her biological parents, only the two brothers and sisters from the Ye family liked her the most. She is not allowed to be touched by strangers. Now that she has grown up and is smart, she knows how to please people and will not reject Grandma Yu's contact. However, when she gets angry, she doesn't care so much. This morning Yuan Ran went on a business trip with Bei Ye. Just because they were thinking about Beiji Yu, they all calculated the time to come back in the evening. Who knew that something happened during the day by such a coincidence? Even if I put down my work immediately and rush back, it would be too late. I can only place my hope on Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo. As long as they coax the little princess, everything else will be easy. On the way there, Ye Qingfeng contacted MRSU in advance to inquire about the situation. It turned out that when several children were playing games, they had an argument over items. Someone pushed Beiji Yu, which happened to hurt his forehead. Beiji Yu is the treasure that the whole family holds in their hearts, and now he is hurt? Ye Qingfeng was so angry that he almost smashed his phone. Brother, please calm down first. Grandma Yu also said that Yuer's injury is not serious. It's just that she refused to be touched or her wounds treated. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1437. Chapter 1437 Ye Qingfeng betrays men. When Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo rushed to the kindergarten, they saw Beiji Yu holding the door of the infirmary with both hands. Standing next to her were MRSU, the doctors from the infirmary, and even the director of the school, but they couldn't do anything to Beiji Yu. Children are very precious, and adults don't dare to hurt her when they become stubborn. Especially, MRSU has always been cautious in doting on Beiji Yu, probably because she wants to get rid of her guilt for her previous neglect of her daughter Yuan Ran. It was transferred to granddaughter Beiji Yu. Beiji Yu hadn't noticed them yet when Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo approached. MRSU coaxed her, "Yuer, listen to Grandma, let's let the doctor look at you first, okay?" Beiji Yu did not respond. Ye Qingfeng walked up to her and saw Beiji Yu with her small mouth pursed, looking pitiful, and her eyes were still hazy with tears, which was really heart-wrenching to see. Beiji Yu's eyes widened a bit when she saw Ye Qingfeng. This reaction was looked upon by others. Ye Qingfeng stretched out his hands and hugged her. "Don't cry, don't cry." Beiji Yu cried even harder when she saw him coming. "It doesn't look good when a little beauty cries. Can you let me see where I'm injured?" Beiji Yu pointed to her forehead aggrievedly. "It hurts." There were 2 scrape marks on his forehead. There was no bleeding, but red blood marks could be seen. This was already a great injury to Beiji Yu. "Does it hurt?" Let's let the doctor take a look at you first, okay?" Don't look, don't look." Beiji Yu still shook her head and refused to look. The people next to me looked anxious, and MRSU was even more worried. I originally thought that Ye Qingfeng would be the great savior when he came, but I didn't expect that even Ye Qingfeng's words didn't work. MRSU was about to step forward to coax her again, but Yezhiruo quickly stopped her. "Grandma Yu, please wait a moment, brother will be able to do something about it." MRSU sighed anxiously and could only nod. I saw Ye Qingfeng holding Beiji Yu slightly with both hands, and whispered a few words into her ear. Beiji Yu nodded and said yeah. Ye Qingfeng stood up and naturally took Beiji Yu's hand and walked to the infirmary. Beiji Yu followed suit. Ye Qingfeng said to the doctor, "Give Yuer some medicine, I'm in trouble." Everyone really didn't expect that Beiji Yu, who could not be coaxed by so many people, would immediately change her mind because of Ye Qingfeng's whisper. Beijia cooperated with the doctor in prescribing the medicine, provided that she kept holding Ye Qingfeng's hand. Had it not been for the huge age gap, others would have thought they were a young couple who cherished each other. Grandma Yu was curious about what method Ye Qingfeng used to coax Beiji, but Beiji kept pulling Ye Qingfeng to her side, and there was nothing she could do about it. Grandma Yu looked at Yezhiruo standing aside and came over to thank her. Ruruo, it's really troublesome for you to come here during class. Yezhiruo laughed twice, but it was just a coincidence that they took leave. It's okay, yours accidental injury made us anxious. It's a blessing that you guys are here. I don't know how Feng or coaxed Dao you are to obey and cooperate. Well. Yezhiruo put one hand on her chin and replied smoothly, probably it means that if you don't see the doctor, you may become unattractive. This. MRSU really didn't expect it to be so simple. But they also said something similar to this to Beiji. Why didn't they respond? Yezhiruo heyed twice, blinked and turned around. Actually, Ye Qingfeng just said. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1438. Chapter 1438 I will like you more. Brother Feng, will the moon become beautiful? Of course. Does Brother Feng like you or more? Beiji was still thinking about this when she raised her head and cooperated with the doctor to apply medicine. Hearing the innocent children's words, Ye Qingfeng felt so soft in his heart that he squeezed Beijiyu's hand even more tightly and answered her questions honestly. Will do. Yezhiruo stood aside and listened and really wanted to clap her hands. Just now when Ye Qingfeng was whispering to Beijiyu, she was standing next to her. She accidentally took a closer look at it a few times. Who knew she could lip read? In fact, Ye Qingfeng said something very true just now. If you becomes less beautiful, my brother will not like to play with you in the future. How cruel it is to actually use yourself to provoke Beijiyu. Beijiyu's injury was actually not serious. After applying medicine, the pain was gone. Beijiyu refused to let go, so Ye Qingfeng simply picked her up. At this time, Beijiyu's mood has returned to normal. She knows how to thank the doctor and teacher, and also knows how to say sorry to MRSU. When she was angry, she didn't care about others, but when she was in a good mood, she was very good at coaxing others. Even if MRSU had some grudges in her heart, she could easily resolve them. However, although Beijiyu's injury was taken care of, Ye Qingfeng still hadn't forgotten to find the initiator of the incident. Some things cannot be said to be okay just because the other person is a child. If you do something wrong, you should be criticized, so that people can learn a lesson. The teacher directly contacted the parent of the child who pushed someone. The parent was a sensible person. He knew that his son had made a mistake by pushing someone in the kindergarten and was injured. While he apologized to them, he also taught his child to listen to him in the future. As a teacher, get along well with your classmates. With such a thing happening, Beijiyu couldn't attend class here today, so she took her home directly. Beijiyu rarely saw the Ye family brothers and sisters when she was in school. Today, when she saw them, she refused to let them go, so Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo simply accompanied her home. Beijiyu ran into her room and took out all her new toys to share. These toys were too childish for Ye Qingfeng and Yezhiruo, but they couldn't bear to brush off Beijiyu's kindness, so they played with Beijiyu. Yezhiruo stayed in the room for half an hour and then ran away alone, leaving Ye Qingfeng and Beijiyu to continue their dealings. Children's minds are very simple. She only knows what she likes and is willing to share it with the people she likes. They think this is a happy thing. Beijiyu walked around the room and suddenly took Ye Qingfeng's hand and said mysteriously, "Brother Feng, I wrote you a letter." "Really, you can write letters? How can a 5-year-old child write letters even though he cannot write well?" When Ye Qingfeng was curious, Beijiyu took out a blue envelope and handed it to him. "Look, This is the letter. Ye Qingfeng stretched out his hand to open the door. Beiji quickly took his hand and said, "Brother Feng, don't look at it now." "Okay, don't look now." After a while, Beiji handed another pink letter into his hand and told him that it was for Yezhiruo. Ye Qingfeng asked curiously, "How many letters have you written and who are you going to send them to?" Beiji probably didn't forget to count them after she finished handing them out. "I gave them to mommy, daddy, grandma, brother Feng, and sister Ruo." From childhood to adulthood, there are only a handful of people who have penetrated into the heart of Beiji. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1439. Chapter 1439, You're not still thinking about the baby kiss, are you? They had just returned to Bei's house for about an hour, and Beia and Yuan Ran had already hurried back. Seeing MRSU in the living room, Yuan Ran couldn't wait to ask Beiji where she was. "Mom, where is you now?" "In my room." Without asking any more questions, the couple hurried away. The two of them were worried after learning that their daughter was injured. At that time, they wished they could spread a pair of wings behind their backs and fly back. At this moment, when I opened the door and took a look, I found my injured daughter sitting on the carpet, having a great time playing jackpot and drawing with Ye Qingfeng. The so-called guessing game is a game invented by Ye Qingfeng when he was playing with Beiji. Beiji is still young and cannot play advanced games. Simple guessing and winning or losing rewards will make her very competitive. Each player places a white rag doll in front of them. The winner can draw a stroke on the doll with a colored pen and decide a drawn shape in advance, such as a kitten, puppy, or something else, to see who comes first in the end. Whoever draws the best is the real winner. The winner can ask the loser to do something. There is no skill in this kind of game as long as you don't deliberately cheat, but Ye Qingfeng's mind will automatically calculate the number of punches Beiji punches and the pattern of rock paper scissors. But in the end, in order to make Beiji happy, he would lose on purpose. Of course, I will occasionally win once or twice to mobilize Beiji's enthusiasm. Beiji found this kind of game very interesting, and she didn't even notice that her parents had opened the door and walked in. Ye Qingfeng has sensitive ears and excellent sight, and he discovered it when Yuan Ran appeared. Yuan Ran ran to his daughter and interrogated her for a while. If it weren't for Ye Qingfeng explaining at the side, Beiji wouldn't have even reacted. Yuan Ran breathed a sigh of relief obviously. As a father, Kitano is not as outstanding as Yuan Ran, but his frown just now finally relaxed. After confirming that her daughter was fine, Yuan Ran began to educate her. You are not allowed to do this again in the future. You must protect yourself from being hurt easily. If you are really unavoidable, you must see a doctor in time. Don't be willful. Do you know that you are injured and you still refuse to cooperate with the doctor? It will scare your mother to death. Yuan Ran shed tears as she educated her. Originally, she was not the kind of person with overflowing emotions, but since she became a mother and gave birth to this hard-won daughter, her heart seemed to have become fragile. She gets extremely nervous whenever it comes to matters involving her daughter. Beiji was still young and could not feel the real worry and anxiety of Yuan Ran, but she could also see that mommy seemed very sad, so she hugged Yuan Ran and comforted her. "Don't cry, mommy, she will change if she cries. If you're not pretty, you won't want to play with you." Yuan Ran wiped her tears, not wanting to show such a weak side in front of her child. "Mommy didn't cry, it's just that there was sand in her eyes." "That will help," mommy urged her. The child's sincere behavior made Yuan Ran feel warm in her heart. She couldn't say anything. She wanted to educate her just now. She only blamed herself for not protecting her child well. Beia, who was not sensitive enough, heard the new sentences from Beiji's mouth. With a few words, he could tell from Beijiyu's mouth that those words were what Ye Qingfeng said when he coaxed her. B became more vigilant. You brat, you're not still plotting against my daughter, are you? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1440. Chapter 1440. Just treat her as a younger sister. Why can't I understand the words Godfather? Don't pretend to be like me. You were asking Yuer to give you your wife, but now Yuer is so dependent on you. Every time he sees his precious daughter getting close to other people's boys, Kitano, as a biological father, feels very unbalanced and can be said to be a little jealous. After knowing each other for so many years, Ye Qingfeng had already figured out Bai Ye's background. He followed Bai Ye's thoughts and answered, Godfather, I was young and ignorant back then. I watched Yuer grow up, so she followed me like a biological sister. Bi frowned and asked, seriously? It's absolutely true. Ye Qingfeng's assurance was almost like raising to swear. Hearing this, Bi suddenly felt uncomfortable again. He was not happy when Ye Qingfeng said that he wanted to marry his precious daughter. Now that Ye Qingfeng said that it was just a relationship between brother and sister, and when Ye Qingfeng said that it was just a matter of youth and ignorance, he felt unhappy when he heard it. This is crazy. The struggle between the two men was full of undercurrents. Yezhiruo wanted to find the right moment to help Ye Qingfeng escape, but no one was as quick as Beijiyu. Beijiyu took the stuffed doll she just won and ran towards Ye Qingfeng with small steps. Brother Feng, I just won, and you haven't given me a reward yet. It turned out that he was holding a ragdoll and asking for the victory prize. The unwritten rule of their self-created game is that winners can make demands on losers. Beijiyu didn't know how to make any special demands. She just thought that if she won, she could ask for prizes. Every time. That's right. Ye Qingfeng was in such a hurry when he saw her today that he didn't prepare anything good to bring her, and he couldn't get it out at the moment. Brother Feng was anxious to see you today, so he didn't have time to prepare any gifts. Can I give you some supplies next time? Beijiyu was very happy to hear this, and happily made an okay gesture to Ye Qingfeng to express her agreement. Yezhiruo, who was accompanying Yuan Ran at the side, listened to these words and felt that it was really good for her brother to be so flirtatious. Although she is a naive little loli now, it doesn't mean that she won't take it seriously after hearing it. According to Beijiyu's love for Ye Qingfeng, what if this really arouses the feelings of a different brother and sister in the future? Thinking of this, Yezhiruo couldn't help but shudder. Forget it, she doesn't care. Yezhiruo's trembling movements were caught by Yuan Ran, and she asked with concern, Ruruo, what's wrong with you? Are you cold? Yezhiruo shook his head, hesitated for a moment, and suddenly asked something, Godmother, do you still remember what happened when my brother and I, Nuanuan, was born? Why are you asking about this all of a sudden? Well, Mommy has often changed the door number of Nuan's room recently. We see it but don't dare to ask her anything. I think Mommy misses Nuan every day for 10 years. Nuan's death is your mother's heart disease that cannot be cured in her whole life. Please be considerate. Yes, we know, but I'm still a little curious, what kind of accident did Nuan experience? It made Mommy so unforgettable. These things are all over. Yuan Ran deliberately ignored him and still refused to tell them everything. If it had been left in the past, she would definitely not have asked, but now the situation is different. Godmother, just tell me. End of this chapter.